Hey everyone, Andrew Reiner here. We are going to be discussing Batman Arkham Knight spoilers. If you're watching this, you haven't played the game yet, and you want to play it, avoid this at all costs. Just shut the program down, the video, and move on to something else. We're going to go into every little story beat, not just the ending, but there's a lot of big things going on in the game. And all three of these gentlemen here have finished it. We got Kyle Hilliard.
Yeah, I'm part of the 100% Riddler trophy club. I went all out, did all the trophies.
Jeff Cork's part of that club.
Yes, I am.
And Bryan Vore had a little bit of trouble we watched upstairs just recently fighting Asriel. Yes. You're going to be 100%, but not there yet.
That was my lowest point. You guys all witnessed it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Batman looked pretty cool all the other times, and you weren't even looking at it.
You were swinging at a lot of air when we were up there.
There was a lot of electricity that I had to deal with. Those challenges, for the people who haven't tried them yet, you cannot get hit at all.
Yeah.
You need to beat up a group of guys. And electricity, is not my friend. But I did beat the next one on my second try.
Yeah, it's weird.
The very final one. Yeah. It was no problem.
But lots and lots to talk about in this game. Obviously, the stuff that Rocksteady and Warner Brothers communicated prior to launch was a very small fraction of what the game was actually about. It turns out it is not just about Scarecrow and Arkham Knight, this new character they introduced, but it's another Joker story. Big time. Maybe more. You get more Mark Hamill voiced Joker, even after he said he was retiring.
Do you think that's disingenuous, or do you like that fake out occurred?
I think that's awesome.
I love that he said that, even if he was totally lying. Like he can lie to me. That's fine.
I mean, I had no idea this was going to happen, obviously. And the very first thing you do in the game is you cremate the Joker, which gives you a great sense of closure.
By wiggling the thumbsticks.
Yeah, you actually have control over the flames, which is kind of disturbing and dark. But it was very cool to see that transition where it was like, okay, we're leaving the Joker behind. It felt like a kind of a send-off, like we're moving on to something else here. And, if you've played Arkham Asylum, one of the best parts of that was Scarecrow. So, them setting up Scarecrow as the big bad was a very cool thing out of the gate. But then they kind of pulled the rug out from under us and had it be more about Joker tied to those hallucinations. What did you guys think of the Joker content in general?
I think it worked really well because normally you can only hear Joker over a speaker. If he's anywhere near you, there has to be some kind of force field or a piece of glass between you, because otherwise Batman just cannot help himself but punch him right in the face.
Right.
But now Batman has no control, so he just has to listen to whatever Joker has to say. And the way this manifests is the Joker knows everything about Batman, Bruce Wayne, and is almost delighted, I never knew this whole time, and I can't. This is how you treat your Bat family and all that stuff. He's very keen observations that really kind of cut to Batman's core.
That's because it's Bruce Wayne internalizing the Joker. Obviously, it isn't the Joker. The Joker situation. An external force. I mean, the Joker is dead.
Joker's long gone. Yeah. And the Joker is in Batman's mind, and it's not just the Scarecrow's fear toxin that is delivering this. Batman's also infected with the Joker toxin, the laughing gas from Arkham Asylum or even City, the exposure to that and how that was creating. I guess Joker's endgame was to create other Jokers, other characters that would kind of become him. And you see that there's, I think, 6 of them in the game?
Well, there's 3, and then Batman's the 4th.
3,
right?
okay, then there's 4.
The woman,
Joker
the big muscular
5.
guy, and then Johnny Charisma.
There's also that little old man.
Oh, yes, that's right. So 4, and then Batman's 5th. Okay, yeah.
Who is supposed to be... He was the good tainted Joker man, but really he was the most tainted of them all.
He really was.
Good tainted Joker man.
But the Joker is in Batman's mind, and it's really cool to see the relationship that they have in the game. I really like that, how the Joker would just taunt him endlessly. And you could see just how it was kind of eating away at his sanity as the game went on. And he's everywhere. I mean, you probably got more Mark Hamill Joker in this game than maybe the other 2 games combined. I would say easily, because you'd crawl on a vent and the Joker would be in the vent with you talking. Yes, you rounded the corner, you'd be sitting there.
Yep.
You open a door, the Joker would be out there. You're flying across the city, he'd be there.
I also feel like he was genuinely funny.
Yeah.
When you remove that sort of, he's a psychopath who's going to murder people, it gives him room to make a lot of jokes that I actually found myself laughing out loud at, which I never did in the previous games. Joker's always fun, but I've never actually laughed at his jokes, I kind of sympathize with him in this game to a certain degree.
And one of the cool things is, you have Scarecrow and Arkham Knight, two big threats that are looming over this. Like, that story is continuing through the whole game. But then you're also really vested in this kind of third wrinkle with the Joker and what's happening to Bruce Wayne, because you've seen what happened with the other people that Bruce has imprisoned these other Jokers, and he's keeping them like quarantined in a secret lair of his that he has, not the Batcave, but another one he has in Gotham. And nobody knows about these people. They just disappeared, and he's studying them. And obviously he knows there's something going on with him as well.
Yeah, there's like a missing poster for that old guy at the very opening diner, too, right behind the counter. That's kind of a fun touch.
And by the way, as soon as you walk in that diner, Sefton Hill, the director of the game, is right to your right. He's the first character you see. He kind of waves, and the camera spins. The police officer, first-person cam spins, and he's there for a split second. I thought that was kind of cool, kind of a Stan Lee-esque Marvel move. But as we go through the game, you learn that, obviously there's the identity of Arkham Knight that comes into play. And
which, before we go too much further into that, I want to point out that you actually called that, like, when we saw the cover. Like, when they came to pitch for the cover, after they saw it, you were telling us about it. You were like, I think I know who that is. And you were right. I don't know if you want to spoil that yet in this conversation, but you called it like years ago.
I think we could go right into the Arkham Knight. That's not the biggest spoiler in the game here, or the biggest discussion point, but Arkham Knight, big mystery tied to who he might be. And the first image we saw, we'll kind of play off of that. The first image we saw was Arkham Knight masked, and he had the two pistols, and the mask was very kind of rounded. It had like the bat ears on it. Mm-hmm. But the second I looked at it, I was like, that's got to be Red Hood. Mm-hmm. And that's a famed Batman villain from, I guess they touched on him in Origins, the old Joker version of him. But he's a key player in the DC universe. He's been there for a long time. And he's Red Hood is Jason Todd, who used to be one of Batman's Robins. And he was an absolute failure as a character in creation that DC let fans vote on it. Like, should we keep this guy alive or kill him? And fans just wrote in, like, kill this guy. So they killed him off in the 80s in a story called Death in the Family. And they play off that in the game. And that's one of my favorite parts of this is, I'll let you guys weigh in on this, is those little kind of vignette moments where you see, it's not a cool moment, but it's a really fascinating moment where Barbara Gordon meets Joker. Joker shows up at her apartment, and you see that whole sequence play out. And then you also get one with Jason Todd, where Joker is brutalizing Jason Todd. He figured out who he was, took off his mask, has him chained up, and he's beating him with a lead pipe.
It's a real Theon Greyjoy situation.
But what did you guys think of those? And you get it internalized from Joker and Batman's perspective of these things happening. What's kind of your take on those little moments?
I mean, I thought the way it was presented is really cool. Like, it just sort of happens. Like, you sort of get this bizarre Joker-infused flashback of, like, it looks like it's really occurring in the space, but it's like a flashback. I mean, it was really affecting, but they did kind of play their hand a little early, because once they started showing that, I think it was pretty clear
who it was at that point.
Did anyone not know who it was? Like,
not up to that point. I was still sort of like...
I was hoping that it was like maybe someone different or tricky, but like, yeah, it seemed like Jason Todd was the most obvious choice. They did another kind of Rocksteady fib before things came out where they're like, this is an entirely new character created by Rocksteady. So when you ask him stuff like, oh, is it Jason Todd? Like, they're like, it's a new guy, so don't worry about that.
don't worry about it.
What helped me believe that initially is that, like, they haven't planted any seeds for Jason Todd in the previous two games.
Yeah,
right.
And I was like, wow, you got to build it up, because, like, how are you going to build it all and then make the payoff happen in this game when there may have been like a Jason Todd poster or something weird in the old games, but nothing too on the nose. Yeah. So when they started right when they're like, immediately when Joker said, "Oh, anything about Jason Todd?" Like, even just like, "Hey, didn't you used to have another Batman or another Robin before Dick Grayson and Tim and all that?" And immediately, just even the slightest mention of Jason Todd, I'm like, "Well, that's obviously who he is."
So I went into the game thinking, okay, it's got to be Jason Todd. But then I saw that Arkham Knight had like $1 billion, more than that, $1 billion worth of tanks in an army. I was like, who could this be in the DC universe or in the Batman universe? And then you start seeing like the LexCorp towers. You hear Lex Luthor on the voicemail.
Yeah, that was a cool
I was like,
touch,
maybe it's like tied in with the Superman universe, and maybe this is going to kind of bridge the way for maybe a new Rocksteady game or franchise. And then it was just like, nope, we have no explanation how he has all these tanks.
Yeah, so
it's Jason Todd.
That's not something I missed then, where he got his money from?
No, it's just a dumb comic book thing, I think.
My hope
I was thinking that the final ending would be like, I'm the true financer of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't anything like that. Obviously we're not going to touch on that just yet. But even the bad guys are like, whoa, these guns are the best I've ever had, and like this is real cushy, and like, you know, where does he get all this cash? And it's like, even the bad guys want to know.
I thought they were setting it up for that. I was hoping, and I thought it would be like inheritance from the Joker. Because, like, presumably the Joker just has stockpiles of money that he doesn't know what to do with because he's not a functioning human being.
He probably invested in Apple early on.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I thought that would have been a cool
stocks.
I thought that would have been a cool explanation of, like, Joker's final, like, FU to Batman was like, I'm going to screw up Robin, and then I'm going to give you a ton of money to deal with it. But, no, I guess that just kind of
the government is completely powerless. They're like, well, you did write it in a document.
He's got Swiss bank accounts, so...
Yeah.
No.
And Jason, you know, Batman finds out it's Jason. It's like drama, and then Jason has his moment of redemption, which is
pretty quick.
It is very quick, kind of cheesy. You could tell they'd really kind of wedged that into that. Mm-hmm. But at that point in the game, you're really not focused on that anymore. You're like, okay, cool, we know who that is. Get your dumb tanks out of the way. Let's get back to the Joker and Scarecrow stuff, right? And one thing before we get to the endings and kind of the Scarecrow conflict. Rocksteady was not afraid to kill characters in this this trilogy. I mean, the Joker's gone, and then throughout the game, Poison Ivy dies.
Oh yeah.
But before that, you also think that another female character, Barbara Gordon's dead,
right?
And you see a very convincing moment of her, beautifully framed by Rocksteady, where she's under Scarecrow's fear toxin, and she picks up a pistol, and blows her brains out. You don't actually see the trigger shot, but Joker walks right in front of her and gives you the pistol sign right as the gun fires, and then he moves out of frame, and you see her like slumped over. I was like, that is super powerful. I can't believe they just did that. Obviously, they undid it,
right,
saying it was just a hallucination, another hallucination.
Yeah, she appears on the roof at a key scene with Gordon, Batman, Barbara, and then was it Scarecrow was up there with some of his henchmen. And he basically says like, okay, Gordon, you kill Batman or Barbara gets pushed off this roof. Right?
And that all ties back into the very first line that is uttered in the game, which is, this is how, I don't know the exact line, but this is how the Batman died.
Spoken by Gordon.
By Gordon, yeah. And so he shoots Batman. Batman goes off the cliff.
Shoots him
off
right in
the building.
What they've established is the strongest part of his armor.
Yeah.
Right in the bat symbol.
Mm-hmm. And everybody assumes he might die, but obviously he's not dead. Batman's fine. He's alive and well.
Yeah, that was just one of those conceits of like, well, it's okay, it's happening in a cutscene, so stakes are raised. But like, I could probably fight all these guys up here if I needed to, if this wasn't a cutscene.
Yeah.
And then that transitions into the big end game point of Scarecrow facing off against Batman. Batman's still just losing his mind, not from Scarecrow's toxin. I guess it's maybe a cocktail of that and the Joker toxin. So he's hallucinating. Joker's everywhere, and in his vision, he's driving down the street. Everybody is a Joker. For certain segments, battles, he's going against just Jokers, and I want to bring that one up. He is absolutely. He's no longer holding back his punches when he's fighting those Jokers, and then one of the last moves in that sequence, he mimics Bane. From the old comic book Nightfall, and he picks up the Joker, smashes Joker over his knee, breaks his back, and then I think there's like another couple of seconds left in that fight, and that fight concludes. But that sequence, I was like, okay, that's a nice little call out for comic book fans that he did the Bane move to kill off a Joker. But then, I guess we should talk about the ending first.
Yeah,
the word Nightfall is very important here, but Bruce Wayne reveals his identity to the world.
Because Scarecrow has him at that point.
Yep, and Scarecrow's filming him, and Bruce is,
takes off his Dead Space helmet.
He takes off his Dead Space helmet. I love the technology.
That is really cool.
Takes that off and reveals who he is. Everybody's watching on TV, live TV.
He makes Gordon do it, right?
Yep. So there's a really nicely written moment between Gordon and Bruce there. I thought that was handled really well. And then things start going pretty crazy at that point when Bruce starts to become more the Joker than ever as he's strapped in there. And
Scarecrow jabs him with like a
more
toxin,
toxin
right in the shoulder, right there.
His little Freddy Krueger gloves. I love it. And so Bruce is tripping like nobody's business and actually becomes the Joker in a sequence.
He imagines what would happen if the Joker did ultimately take over, which was such a weird and cool segment to hey, just kill everybody. You know, this has been a very this is a thematic throughout the whole series that Batman doesn't kill, but you're the Joker now, so you need to murder everybody in this room.
Every villain in Arkham Asylum, and you are in Arkham Asylum at this point. And Joker is he has a tricked out version of the Batmobile. Which is super cool. I wish you could play the game with that.
Yeah,
because it has the smile on the front of it. It's white. It looks super cool. But I mean, he's just unloading on all the inmates in Arkham.
And when you fill up your ultra Batmobile move, you've got the killing joke, which is you fire all your missiles out at the crowd, which is a nice nod to that comic.
And then it goes to first person, and you're running around with a shotgun or something as Joker. In all these, almost like Doctor Who with those the angel statues, all these Batman statues start popping up and kind of taunting him and messing with Joker's mind.
And it's like a common refrain there too that according to Bruce Wayne, his interpretation of the Joker's biggest fear is that the Joker will be forgotten.
Right.
That people will just move past him.
And so as this is going on, eventually, there's just statues everywhere, and eventually Batman comes in and starts fighting the Joker. And that's the big final conflict is you could beat up Joker as long as you want. I mean, it's just, and he's defenseless against Batman at this point. Joker can't do anything to him. And all you have to do is end up, what do? You throw him in a chamber or something at the end, or a grave or something.
Was that supposed to, I kind of looked at it as this is silly, but it was all these hanging cages. Are those Batman's inner demons that he has caged
it might
up?
be, yeah. I mean, obviously
dead parents in one.
It was
he
very
made fun of in high school in another and stuff like that.
It's very artistically done.
Yeah,
it definitely left open to interpretation. But you throw him in there, and then his eyes change from the Joker green or whatever to being Bruce again, and he's free of the Joker at that point. And then the ending kind of starts playing. What did you guys think of that kind of conclusion with the Joker, that last kind of conflict?
It was weird because so much of it was just him having this fight inside of himself against what he thought of the Joker. So, I mean, those guys are so closely linked. That's basically what the Joker was there for the whole time, is this Bruce Wayne wrestling with that void.
Right.
And you could take away the tainted blood and the fear toxin. I think, let's not forget that Batman was just a very unstable person to begin with.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty controversial.
A guy wearing a bat costume?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's pretty insane to begin with. And I think that combination of those two other factors and kind of pushed him way over the edge. And it was interesting. I kind of wish in a way that it had been more of a fight, not just inside of himself.
Sure.
Because you're just imagining all these conversations and everything. The Joker obviously had no say in any of this at any point. So we don't know for a fact that the Joker's biggest fear was being forgotten. Even though we can assume that's what it was. And it was a really cool moment. But then if you step back and go, oh, okay.
And it's all designed as gameplay. That's the tricky thing for Rocksteady is he's this big menace in your mind, and then eventually he's frail, almost forgotten.
Yeah.
How do you deliver that as gameplay? I thought they did a pretty good job of making that interesting and giving it different dynamics along the way. And then that gives way to the two, once you finish that, the game is over. You're Batman, a healthy Batman, supposedly.
That's because he injects the Scarecrow with the fear toxin and blows his mind.
And Scarecrow's been trying to blow up Gotham through this whole thing.
Yeah.
He actually does kind of succeed in releasing the fear toxin, which is important for the final ending. So Gotham is just covered in a cloud of a fear toxin, which looks really cool in the game.
Yeah, that part was cool.
But eventually, it clears all that stuff. Joker's apprehended, and
You used the bat fan to get rid of it, right?
he did. Just
Driving
underneath
around with
Gotham.
like a big old fan on the back of his Batmobile.
Blow it to Metropolis.
If you haven't played the game, that is exactly what happens, and don't worry about looking into it or anything.
Yeah.
But then that gives way to the second ending, which is, which you
Nightfall.
get. Yeah, it's called the Nightfall Protocol, which again is a key thing. So if you know what happened in the Nightfall story,
Before we go too far into that, what I thought was cool about the overworld is that now everyone knows Batman is Bruce Wayne.
that is true.
Yeah.
And you hear all the dialogue change for all the goons who they're like, "Oh, I'm going to sue Bruce Wayne. This is going to be great. He snapped my arm in Arkham City." And, just them talking about the death of Poison Ivy. And it's just really strange. And even when you do the final apprehensions of a lot of the extra bosses, which are a big part in getting to the Nightfall, even they are just like, they get that little conversation on their little ride back
Right.
to Gotham PD in the back of your car. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe it was you the whole time, Bruce Wayne." And
Oh, see,
blah,
I
blah,
did.
blah.
I did most of those before getting to that point, so I
Yeah.
never had anyone talk to me about that. That's really
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. So there's different dialogue that is triggered at
I wonder
that
if I can go
point.
talk to them in their cell, and they'll talk to me as Bruce Wayne. I'll have to go check that out.
And there's different things.
totally.
If you do that stuff without having the Joker with you, you'll see it differently too. Sometimes some of those sequences are different when the Joker's there in your mind. But getting up to that ending, then Bruce Wayne, you see Wayne Manor, Vicky Vale, reporter who's been through Batman forever,
Kim Basinger.
right?
She
She's
wasn't
out
in
front.
Batman forever. Jeff.
Batman comes down and his bat wing lands. Everybody's like freaking out because Bruce Wayne's Batman. There's
He's
people
got the-
outside
he's got the
protesting.
yeah, he's got the helmet off and everything.
Yep. He just doesn't care anymore. He opens the front door. He confronts Alfred. Alfred's like, "You sure you want to do this?" And he's like, "We have to."
Yep.
To keep them safe.
To keep them safe. And the doors close, and seconds later, Wayne Manor explodes. And it's just flames everywhere, debris everywhere, and it's implied that they're dead, right?
Yep.
Obviously, they'll probably not find corpses. We'll never know what happens there, right?
It's not just a regular explosion. It's the kind that like, boom, curtains are going, and then it just like implodes on itself.
Yeah.
In like a boom blocks structure.
Boom blocks are great.
So they're saying there, Nightfall could be, we got to get rid of Batman. Like, that whole thing's got to be done in that moment. So that's how that second ending ends. And then if you get all the Riddler trophies in the game, you get a third ending, which really adds some context to Nightfall and what's going on in Gotham after Wayne Manor is destroyed and Bruce is supposedly gone, right?
Yeah.
And what we end up seeing is some criminals.
Well, actually, I had a question about that. We see Gordon. He's wearing a suit,
Yes.
and
mayor.
and Tim Drake texts him and says, "Don't forget the ring."
I think he's going to marry.
Is it Robin
gonna marry
and Oracle's
Oracle, yeah.
wedding? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I assumed. Okay.
And then, so this is sometime later, and then we see some criminals assaulting a family that is very much like Bruce Wayne's, from Crime Alley. They even have the pearl necklace fall on the ground, mimicking that same moment when Bruce lost his parents. But before they can kind of finish the job, the camera pans up behind the criminals, and you look up on a rooftop, and you see a Batman-like figure up there.
He's like, hey, didn't you get the memo? Bats is dead.
Yeah, Bats is dead. But then this kind of supernatural-esque like swarm of bats starts
Just
kind
raises him,
of
slowly
circling
through the air.
Batman, raises him off the rooftop, and then fire in the sky, just crazy bat symbol right in front of, like, it swoops down, it's right in front of the criminals, crazy explosion of light and fire, and then the Batman kind of swoops in even closer in a split second. You don't really get a good look at it. I went frame by frame. He looks a little younger, more demonic, but and then that's where the game ends. It fades to black, and that's the ending of that game. I have some theories on this. I want to ask you guys what you think of this final sequence. What do you think's going on there?
I think it's worth noting that Gordon's monologue is very much focused on the concept of like fear, and
Right.
how that's important to criminals. So like what I think it is, which I imagine is like the pretty standard sort of theory, is that the concept, for lack of a better term, of Bruce Wayne is dead. So he's just full time. Like, Batman is still alive though. Like, he's not going to get killed by explosion. And I think he's sort of co-opting Scarecrow's fear toxin for his own purposes now to kind of help with his crime fighting night job. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Maybe some kind of aerosol
Yeah.
that he can apply more like discreetly.
I think it's one of those squeeze bottle ones as
Yeah.
opposed to aerosol. So it's like just going like that.
yeah.
So you're thinking maybe he threw little darts down.
So it's not like carpet
injected them.
bombing everything.
Something,
but
yeah.
I don't know.
But I think it's still Batman. I don't think it's anybody new.
Or maybe it's a new Batman.
Or it's Scarecrow, maybe, taking up the mantle because he's gone crazy.
I don't think that's it.
No way. They wouldn't let him out.
Any other takes on this?
Well, when Bruce Wayne, right before he blows himself up, says,
And Alfred.
says we've been doing this we have to do this to protect them. I think he means his Bat family because now that they know he's Bruce Wayne, it's only a matter of time before they try to figure out who everyone else is and go after their families. So basically, he's just doing it to protect everyone close to Bruce Wayne because once Batman is supposedly dead and blown up, there's no reason to well, we knew it was who it was now, but how can we leverage that anymore? It doesn't matter. So I think it's kind of like a, the Christopher Nolan Batman thing where he does a little fake death, does a little traveling to Europe, doing his own thing, doing a little retirement.
Goes on dates with Catwoman.
With Alfred, yeah.
And Alfred.
Yeah. And he's just kind of leaving Gotham behind, I don't know if he officially sanctioned this new Batman, which is my theory. There is that mission with Azrael, which I'm at the very end of, but I don't know if you get there's a choice there. You get to pick if he succeeds you or not.
Yeah, he promises, Batman promises that everybody can be the next Batman through the course of the adventure. So he's got his pick.
And that ties into the name Nightfall. And that's what we were saying earlier is Nightfall in the comic books, what happens is Bruce's back is broken by Bane. He can no longer function, but Gotham needs a protector. So Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, takes over as Batman and is just this menace, a killing machine. So Bruce eventually has to heal up. It takes months and months and months, but Azrael as Batman is he's sharpened his claws and he is just obliterating villains. It's helping the city, but Bruce is this is not what the symbol of the bat means. So Bruce comes back and takes him down. I think they're implying that through Nightfall, this heavy insistence, showing the back break, I think that was the first hint, going to, saying the Nightfall protocol of getting rid of Bruce Wayne as Batman. I think that transitions to probably Azrael as who takes over in that instance. The other theory out there that I'll throw out there is once Gotham was affected by that toxin, it still exists in the world, and there is no Batman. These criminals are not seeing anything. It's a hallucination.
Yeah.
That they might be seeing because Gotham is just a mess at this point.
Oh, so it's just everyone's got a conscience again, basically.
So it kind of goes
Okay.
back
I like
into
that.
the whole Joker thing at the beginning of the game. It's just in your mind kind of thing.
I have a new theory.
Yeah.
You know who else had access to that fear toxin? Stag.
What?
So Stag is the new Batman. The old guy.
On that note, we should end this. But that is the story. So it's open to interpretation. I thought the ending was beautifully done.
Oh, it was really cool looking.
The whole story in the game, I absolutely adored. I thought they did a fantastic job. Do you guys agree?
I was really sad.
The best story they've done.
Oh,
yeah, I think so. Were there other any little minor spoilers that we should talk about? I thought the Hush story, I felt like that was built up in City a lot, but then kind of just sort of thrown in there. There wasn't a lot to it. I did like picking Hush up and breaking him through the desk, and
You spend 10 minutes with him. and that's it.
I liked the fake out of thinking it was Bruce Wayne, but it just I was kind of hoping for more. I felt like they built it up a lot in City. I spent a lot of time looking for Hush.
Yeah, and
in City.
that kind of was again, I kind of took that as fan service for comic book fans.
Sure.
These are arcs that existed in the comic books with him doing his face just like Bruce.
Yeah. I had a question. I had another question for you. Have there been any I've read a lot of Batman comics, but are there any that focus on the idea of his identity being revealed to everybody in Gotham? Has that ever happened?
Oh boy.
I know there's one where Bruce Wayne goes to prison.
I think
right?
it happens, but it's always somehow taken back in a really stupid way. This is the first time where they just shot it out there, and it's this is how we deal with it. And
Yeah, they'll do things. They'll do things like having someone else in the suit as he's Bruce. Or he's Matches Malone, and
Okay, so that's
we could get really deep.
Oh
into
yeah,
this
matches
stuff,
Malone.
but we won't. But
so that's a pretty big thing for a Batman story. Then it's like knowing
Oh, yeah,
everyone
yeah.
knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like that hasn't been done a lot.
I love that
or in that way.
Rocksteady took liberties and killed characters, made their own story. It started with pieces that built off of familiar comic books and locations and all that, but they made City their own. That was an idea that they kind of did themselves, and then they just kind of kept going with that story. And I love that they kept it all tied into Joker. And that really kind of opens the doors for their next trilogy. Like, who could they focus on? If they go back to Batman or if they go to Superman, because there's a lot of hints there.
Yeah.
I hope they get the chance to do another superhero game. I wouldn't mind them doing more Batman. They might be like, oh my gosh, no, we're done. Yeah. We did the Batmobile, we did the city. Like, please let us do something else. But I hope they get the chance to do it again.
It would be cool to see where they take this, especially with the crazy fear Batman versus the Superman stuff. You got to wonder. I want them to continue in Batman if that's where they're passionate about. But if they want to try to crack the Superman nut and figure out how to do that, that's also really cool.
Why not do World's Finest? Combine the two. Like, you get more Batman, and then instead of the Batmobile, maybe Superman will be better.
Obviously, that's where the movies are going right now.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's
that
a
comes
big
out
thing.
next year.
Here's my question too. WB Montreal did Origins, of course. They also got a lot of thanks for helping out on this game.
They did the DLC, the Batgirl, that comes out next week.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday. They did that DLC. So Rocksteady did not develop that one. That was done by WB. And I'm sure there's a lot of shared technologies and ideas and stuff between the two studios. They're really quick. Their the last moment of Arkham Origins was a tease for a Suicide Squad game. I don't know if you guys finished that all the way through, but it showed Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, in his cell saying, like, let's assemble the team. And the team is Suicide Squad.
Well, he shows up in Arkham Knight, so obviously he's not getting
His
the
team
squad
was
together.
his tank squad. But thanks for watching, everyone. This is Game Informer Spoiled and the Game Informer Show. We'll see you next time.